I wanted to share with you the three books that I've been reading thus far. So 2022 was the year that I decided to read more books to properly inform myself and to build my intellect. And thus far, I don't regret my decision at all. I encourage you, as a matter of fact, to pick up books and properly inform yourself as you learn the truth. Be very careful what you read because just as they are misleading people in other industries, they are misleading authors as well that only write books that are secular, that only write books that are filled with propaganda and misinformation. So be careful what you read. Here are my book recommendations and the books that I've been reading thus far throughout this year. Number one, the first book that I picked up, Lift Your Voice: How My Nephew George Floyd's Murder Changed the World by Angela Harrison. This book definitely encouraged me to read more books, and I loved my experience after reading the book. It talks about how the family dealt with the murder of George Floyd. It talks about how to be an anti-racist and how to raise people properly, how to raise children properly and inform them about racism and what can they do to avoid becoming a racist person. It talks about the differences that we can make to prevent something like this from happening again. And it also gives the recent updates upon what has happened ever since his death. And this is a very productive book. I genuinely recommend it to everyone. My second book that I have read is this book, Prayers for Victory in Spiritual Warfare by Tony Evans. This book, at first, I'll be completely honest with you, when I realized that it was a book of prayer, which was quite obvious, and there were also exercises that pertain to God's word. When I realized that's what the type of book it is, I really didn't want to read it at first. But then I realized that it was a discipline, something that I didn't want to do, but I had to do. Then the thing that I was avoiding was the exercises for the book, the exercises that were provided in the book, which were exercises based on God's word, like based on Bible verses. And the more I read the book, the more I prayed, the more I did these exercises, the closer I drew to God. And I could say definitely right now that I have a better relationship with him than I did before reading this book. So I would highly recommend reading this book as well. The third book that I'm currently reading as of now is Your Turn: How to Be an Adult by Julie Lycott Hames. Excuse me if I mispronounced the name. However, this book is an exceptional book. I admit I'm a young adult, and learning about the aspects of adulthood that weren't taught to me in school or by my parents is definitely very helpful. I would love to learn the mistakes of other people, not at all for, their demotion or to try to demote them or make fun of them. No, but to avoid making those mistakes now that I am a young adult. And I wanted to learn more aspects about adulthood, especially becoming a young adult and taking matters into my own hands and taking up responsibility. The more I read this book, the more relieved that I feel. Before, I was stressing, I was overthinking about certain things, afraid of making certain mistakes. But as of now, I realize that mistakes are imminent. They're going to happen regardless. And I don't have nothing at all to be concerned or overthink about. So this book, as far as I'm reading it, is very satisfying. I know 3 books is not a lot of books. However, 3 is better than 0. And it's better to slowly build yourself up as opposed to rushing your way through anything. So I encourage you as of now to pick up these books, go read more often, and genuinely use your time wisely.